Good morning, friends. As we've moved through this week, we have moved through a new creed day by day. A creed that many of our ecumenical friends have said is a great gift to the whole church. This morning we proclaim Jesus crucified and risen, our judge and our hope. Let's take a moment now just to calm, take a few deep breaths, and center ourselves as we begin worship. And Brianne is going to lead us in.
Maybe we could take that slide, that song completely down, please. Only room for one inside this town. He laid it on the line. Nothing but the sun to guide our tracks. We'll take it as a sign. I'd do it all again for you. I'd say the words, I'd give it all. I'd run the miles. Water from despair, a tiny hill can mark where others kneel. The wild and the tame can't walk the same. They bought her different deals. I'd do it all again for you. I'd say the words, I'd give it all. I'd run the miles. Now a journey pressing lips against a stone. For a pharaoh's daughter in a land that's not her home. This land is not my home. Never room for two inside this vow. He laid it on the line. Raging at the way we sigh a name, it might as well start now. I'd do it all again for you. I'd say the words, I'd bear your bones. I'd do it all again for you. In this land that's not my home. This land that's not my home. This land is not my home.
Refugee, asylum seeker, exile, displaced person, boat people. You put your lives into the hands of strangers to get out of danger. Panic rising, pulse racing, no time for tears.
Say the names, say the names.
Iraq, Eritrea, Iran, Congo, Somalia.
Say the names, say the names.
Syria, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Pakistan, Colombia.
Name the causes, name the causes.
Climate change, war, political persecution, member of the wrong tribe or group, queer, trans, homo.
Risking faith, daring hope, people on the move.
Risking faith, daring hope, even when cruelty is policy, even when the maze of bureaucracy keeps the vulnerable vulnerable, even when empires still crush everything from Bethlehem to Golgotha. Risking faith, daring hope. We see you hungry. We see you thirsty. We see you naked. We see you sick. We see you. Risking faith, daring hope, we begin to know how much we don't know. Where is Kazakhstan? What is the capital of Bangladesh? How many countries are in Africa? Risking faith, daring hope, we begin to know how much we don't know.
And we begin to confess our complicity in crucifixion.
Our lives are witness that we are climate change deniers, our fires, famines, fleeing refugees.
Crying out to meet us, rending down to shreds, portraits of a kingdom, maps our kindred tread, glory in the pilgrim sound. Love grows tired of sweetly speaking truth to power. Everybody. Crying out to meet us, rending down to shreds, portraits of a kingdom, maps our kindred tread, glory in the pilgrim's sound. Love grows tired of sweetly speaking truth to power.
And we begin to confess our silences at crucifixion.
Canadian-made death-dealing machines are sold far away, keeping our economy thriving.
Crying out to meet us, rending down to shreds, portraits of a kingdom, maps our kindred tread, glory in the pilgrim's sound. Love grows tired of sweetly speaking truth to power.
And we begin to confess our complicity in crucifixion. We want you to leave your conflicts at the border. We want you to leave your trauma at the border. We do not see our help as the sunny side of control. We are eager to teach you our ways, less eager to learn your ways.
Crying out to meet us, rending down to shreds, portraits of a kingdom, maps our kindred tread, glory in the pilgrim's song. Love grows tired of sweetly speaking truth to power.
And we begin to confess our silences at crucifixion. The ethnic joke unchallenged, sexual harassment downplayed, Black Lives Matter replaced by All Lives Matter, the long, hard work of reconciliation sidelined.
Crying out to meet us, rending down to shreds, portraits of a kingdom, maps our kindred tread, glory in the pilgrim's song. Love grows tired of sweetly speaking truth to power.
And we begin to confess our silences at crucifixion.
The abuse of our faith to spread homophobia in Uganda, violence experienced by trans people, violence experienced by indigenous people. We pretend our prejudice is past tense. It is easier to call you a liar than believe your story is true.
Crying out to meet us, rending down to shreds, portraits of a kingdom, maps our kindred tread, glory in the pilgrim's song. Love grows tired of sweetly speaking truth to power.
Refuge, asylum seeker, exile, displaced person, both people, risking faith, daring hope.
We see you hungry. We see you thirsty. We see you naked. We see you sick. We see you. We see you. Our friend Necta has a poem to share with us.
On September 2, 2015, we were all shocked to see an image of a young boy lying dead. His name was Alan Kurdi. He was a Syrian boy fleeing war, and he wanted to come to Canada with his family. I'm reading this poem in memory of Alan, a poem written by Reuel Marigsa. Little boy with a red shirt. You were taken out of your land in search of a better one. Yet you will no longer ever walk on land, on any land, no longer able to swim on the surf, climb trees, build a house. Unwelcomed, unwanted you are. You ended up on that shore, lying prone, face down, as though embracing the land that would not embrace you back, lips kissing the waters that you cannot ever drink, immobile, unmoving, lifeless you became. Your image burned in our minds. May it sear our conscience and our hearts. What has the world done to you, a migrant and a refugee?
We are so richly blessed by the presence of our partners. John is going to read scripture in his language, and then we're going to hear from Philip.
I'll read the text as it has appeared on the screen in Kikuyu language, the language spoken by the people of Gikuyu, the inhabitants of central Kenya and around Mount Kenya. Githe kwehinga kuria nie ndathurire ti kuo guku kuohoraga aria mohetwo na njira ya waganu na kuohoraga mikwa ya miti ya ngingo ona kureka aria mahinyiriirio methiire kuria mekwenda nayo miti yothe ya ngingo ni miunange. Githe ti kuhe andu aria ahotu irio ciaku ona ningi andu athĩni aria maingatĩtwo makarutwo kwao umatware gwaku muciĩ. Ona ningi riria wona mundu wina njaga umuhumbage nguo ona ati ndukanehithe andu aria muri a muthimo umwe nao. Hindi ĩyo nĩ ũgagĩtana nake Jehova agwĩtĩke ona wanĩrĩre nake oige atĩrĩ niĩ ũyũ haha. Atĩrĩrĩ, ũngĩeheria ũhoro wa kũhinyanĩrĩria ume thĩinĩ waku ona ũhoro wa kuorota andu na kĩara nĩ ũndũ wa kĩmeno ona kwaria ndeto cia waganu. Icio nicio ciugo cia ũrathi.
Let the Spirit move among us, and let us hear what the Spirit has to say to the churches. In 1968, during the Prague Spring, when Soviet tanks rolled into what was then known as Czechoslovakia, the principal of the seminary at which I worked, angry at the injustice of the quelling of a popular movement and the movement of the Russian army into a sovereign country, organized the community of the seminary to march to and stand in protest outside of the Russian consulate in Kolkata, the city that I live in. It was while organizing this march that someone asked him whether the students of the seminary should go in their cassocks. And I would like you to know that at this point of time in the seminary, students and faculty were expected to wear cassocks at all times, even at meals and also at play. And this is what Frank Thompson, the principal of the seminary, marked in response. And I would like you to hear these words carefully. He said, "I give a damn what they wear as long as they are there. I give a damn what they wear as long as they are there." Thompson's words, including the coarse language that he used, were indicating that the outward marks of ritual are insignificant in the light of responding in faith to what is happening around us. And perhaps this is what the text which we had so powerfully read to us today also speaks to us about. That the ritualistic practices of vestments, the words we use to pray, our liturgical formulations, our personal devotions come to absolutely nothing if we are not able to see that it is really justice that lies at the heart of our faith. That being a disciple of Jesus means the transformation of the world. The Bible is a fascinating book. And actually, it is a book that continuously embarrasses us. And frankly, the text that was read to us today is an embarrassment to those who want to hold a particular kind of Christianity. A type of Christianity that is marked by a narrow outward expressions of spirituality. But the Bible is also not a consistent book. It is not a book that carries one theology. Walter Brueggemann, the Old Testament scholar, informs us that there are two distinct threads to be found in Scripture. Threads that are separate from each other, but threads that engage and sometimes even conflict with one another. He says one of these threads is the consolidating thread that is marked by a need to keep the status quo, a need to maintain order, a thread that tells us that all is well and everything is okay. The second thread that Brueggemann speaks of is a prophetic thread. The thread that seeks to unsettle the status quo, that seeks to upset it for the sake of justice. And it is in this context that Isaiah speaks to the people saying that God is not impressed with their righteousness. That God is not impressed with the fact that they are fasting. That the call is to do justice rather than to keep the rules, to do justice rather than fast. And perhaps it is in this light that we need to see fasting. In the season of Ramadan, Muslims all over the world fast, and it is more than just a ritual. It is not just a way of being pious, but it is actually a fasting that is linked to justice. It is a way of showing that there are limits to life, that not everything is up for consumption. And fasting then becomes a resistance to the logic of consumerism. Perhaps then in this context, we should reflect on our own acts of piety and see how they are linked to justice. Perhaps it is upon us to reflect on ourselves and our own attempts of piety. What are we pious about? And why do we indulge in these acts of piety? What drives our pious devotion to church, to vestments, to prayer, to devotion, to order and rules of ministry and sacrament that you have been discussing here over the last few days? To counsel. Perhaps we need to ask very deeply of ourselves, where does our love for order come from? And why do we continually value order over freedom? Have we drifted away so far from this prophetic tradition and located ourselves in the context of consolidation? I have known the United Church as one that is committed to justice. But perhaps the question we have to ask is whether we who have committed ourselves to justice, whether this rhetoric of justice has become an act of piety. That the production of texts and documents and apologies is part of an elaborate ritual that allows us to sidestep the nitty-gritty of the actual work of justice. That we need to acknowledge and confront our everyday complicity in systems of injustice, and at the same time commit to the everyday commitment, the hard work of working to dismantle this injustice and transform the system. Today we are thinking about refugees and migrants. And it's so easy for us to speak about opening up our homes and our borders to those who are less privileged. We pat ourselves on the back and tell ourselves that we are so very hospitable. But the idea of hospitality has a notion of home locked into it. The idea that this is our home and we are inviting others into it, to adjust to our ways. But perhaps what we need to do is to be displaced and destabilized ourselves. But the question is, how can we unlearn our privilege and learn to listen to others? And that this should not be an accumulation and assimilation of the knowledge of others into our own systems. This means that we allow the other, and particularly the marginalized, broken other, to derange and destabilize us, to completely and fundamentally change us. That listening to the other, the ones whom we really set out to save, should twist us out of shape in a way that we are no longer the same, to discombobulate us. The dictionary defines discombobulate as throwing someone into a state of confusion, to disconcert, to discomfort, to bemuse, bewilder, discomfit, discompose, disconcert, befuddle, confound, confuse, fox, or to disorient. I own a thesaurus. Today I ask you, as a fellow traveler on this long road to freedom, are you ready to be discombobulated as a church? We need to be discombobulated because only then will we be able to see ourselves from outside of ourselves, to be able to learn from others, and then truly be able to learn from both our limitations and our possibilities. Amen.
God in the silence, God in the speaking, God in the working of countless human lives. Reach us and teach us so much with science, how we must live the humanity survives. For yours is the kingdom, the glory and the power. Peace in the journey, justice her herald, peace in the midwife for hopefulness to earth. Peace lays ahead on the block of a conflict. Peace in lament for the dying of the earth. For yours is the kingdom, the glory and the power. We are the blind ones, we are the lame ones, we are the deaf who refuse your spirit's cry. Ours is the madness sparked by the anger, ours is the tangle of systems go awry. For yours is the kingdom, the glory and the power. God of Good Friday, God grown in Jesus, God in the fabric of all the life we have. Take us, we make us kind to each other, crossing the boundary to find a larger love. For yours is the kingdom, the glory and the power.
We celebrate that many United Church congregations are sponsoring refugees, either on their own or in partnership with other faith or community groups. We currently have about 600 applications in the works across the country, representing some 1,600 refugees who have dared hope to make their journey. So we celebrate those courageous refugees, and we celebrate the ministries of those who sponsor them. Well, we know that mission takes many forms and responds to many needs. There are many ways for us to risk faith and dare hope. And so we invite you in a moment of silence to think about how you are risking faith, and daring hope in your time and in your context. Just take a moment to think about that in silence. And now we'd invite you to turn to a neighbor in your table group, or if you're in the bleachers beside you, and share with them how you are risking faith and daring hope, and then offer a prayer for the person who has just shared with you. So if Mingu tells me what he's doing, I will pray for Mingu, and when I tell Mingu what I'm doing, he will pray for me. Let's take a few moments now to do that. Friends, we'll give you one more minute, and then we're going to call you back as we close with the song.
Wow, thank you so much, worship team. Thank you for an entire week of amazing and profound worship. Thank you so much for your incredible gift. Happy Clicker Day, everyone. And speaking of clickers, a reminder not to take your clicker home with you. We know who has which clicker, and you'll be charged $50 for what may well be a cherished souvenir for you by the end of the day. So to avoid this, there are stewards assigned to support your table to collect the clickers at the end of the business meeting. Can the following prepaid GC43 merchandise start over? Can the following who prepaid for GC43 merchandise please visit the bookstore today to pick up your items? Charles McKenzie, Julie Lees, Mary Piercy, Joseph Brian Jackson, Rodney Smith Merkley, and representatives from Altona and Happy Valley United Churches. And I would say that if you know that one of these people has gone home or something and you can get that merchandise to them, then maybe you should help them out. Also, anyone who has taken advantage of the bag and tag option, please pick up your items today. The bookstore closes today at 2 o'clock. Oh yeah, you need that.
Yeah, I need that. If you borrowed a laptop from the IT help table, please should return it before 6 p.m. today. The phone charging locker will no longer be available for lunch. Today, laptop and table charging will remain available until 6 p.m. If you need to print your boarding pass or tickets, a laptop and printer are available at the IT help table until 6:30 p.m. Don't worry if you don't get your expense form in today. You can mail them to the office or email it to the address on the form. The worship team reminds you that there will be an offering for the Mission and Service Fund in our closing worship. Please clear off your tables before supper tonight.
A huge thank you to the UCW for providing muffins and cookies. I am not a cookie person, but holy cadoodle, those cookies were amazing. The prayer room, as you know, as I think you know, prayed for every congregation, not just every pastoral charge, but every congregation across this country. And they are up on little sort of business type cards on Bristol board in the prayer room. And if you would like to go in and take a picture, as I have, of some of your congregation or a congregation from back home, then go in and do that. They'll be taking all of that down at 1:30 today. We want to wish Bella Barbera from the Youth Forum a very happy birthday today. Woohoo! Anyone else celebrating a birthday today? I never like to leave that out. I have to tell you that I've always had an irrational fear of speed bumps, but don't worry, I'm slowly getting over it. OK, un maman citron, a mother lemon, a dit à ses enfants, pour vivre longtemps, she said to her kids, if you want to have a long life, il ne faut jamais être pressé. Never mind. They just don't translate. Anyway, my hope is that we will not have any speed bumps today, that we will be on the road to get everything done. And on that note, I will pass it on to, wow, those are fabulous hats. Fascinators, in fact. Blessings, everyone.
Oh, heavens. I turn it over to you? Are you starting? All right. Bonjour, mes amis. Over to Alan to fill us in on how we're going to begin our business process today.
Merci, Moderatrice. Je vais commencer en français aujourd'hui. Chaque jour, j'ai dans ma tête, après un peu de temps, commencer à parler en français. Chaque jour, tout au coup, c'est la fin, et je me souviens, je n'ai pas encore parlé en français. Je vais commencer ici. Je vais commencer par vous remercier pour travailler ensemble, pour travailler avec nous. I want to start by thanking you all for working together and for working with us. One of the goals of the planning team was for us to have meaningful conversations about important things. And from the number of people who have just stopped me randomly when I'm trying to get somewhere, who have told me that that's kind of what's been happening, I think we did a pretty decent job.
Good job.
Mais nous avons besoin, je pense, il y a plusieurs d'entre vous qui veulent sentir qu'on a fait quelque chose aussi. And so to help those people who feel like they want to feel like they've done something, because conversations still, I think, we don't put as much value on as maybe we should. But we're going to try and work through some of the things that we feel like we're good with. Those things we still feel like we need to talk about, we're going to give an opportunity to talk about. So, if you were here yesterday evening, or if you talked to somebody who was here yesterday evening, when we go through, we're going to try things a little differently. Essentially, what we're going to try to do is take the first two questions we've been asking and do it with one choice on 3 slides. So we're going to get 3 options. Their first option is going to be, and I never asked you for this, and if you can't do it, don't worry. You can put it up if you see it, if it's easy. Your first option is going to be, I feel like the facilitation group captured the spirit of discussions, and I am ready to move to an immediate vote. The second option is, I feel the facilitation group captured the spirit of the discussions, but feel the current wording of the motion needs further discussion. The third option is, I believe the facilitation group needs to do further work with this item. And so that's essentially heard and ready to go is one thing. The last option being, we weren't quite heard properly. What we are suggesting is that for those of you who are happy moving forward, just as it is, the choice number 1, and if 90% of you are there, that we move forward and have an immediate vote. We're not doing this because we want to push stuff through. We're not doing this because we want to not have that discussion if that's the discussion we need. If you feel there's something there we need to talk about, please pick number 2. It will take approximately 30 people picking number 2 for it to go to the side, and it'll come back, and we'll talk about it later. And then if we have number 3, if you weren't quite heard properly, then that's what we want to do. In the manual, the motion to go to an immediate vote is a 2/3 majority. We're trying to set that bar way higher. We don't want to be pushing stuff through. We want to make sure we're hearing you, but we also want to try and move through our business. There's lots of great stuff that has been said. There's lots more that can be said. But this is our offering on how to move us forward. So if we want to, we'll vote immediately if that's what we want to do. If not, we'll park it over here. We'll go through everything. And then once we've made it through everything, with quick things, so they'll present. The facilitation group will present what they heard, their suggested way forward. We'll decide. They'll present their next thing. We'll say, and then we'll decide, okay? And then if we want to talk about it, we'll move it over to the side, and we'll bring it back after in the order that you folks prioritized earlier. to make sure that we're talking about the things we asked you what you wanted to talk about, and we're going to make sure we talk about those things in that order. I know I've just added a whole lot more complication to this whole thing that was already complicated. So thank you for bearing with us here. We're trying to figure out how to make this go well. Things that aren't dealt with get referred to the executive with all those notes, with the suggested way forward, and it will be that body that goes through instead of us, again, and has that conversation. And here's what's in that, what was heard from all our wisdom. So all our wisdom, all our discussion about everything that we've been having still is what is informing the decision and what is would be informing the action forward. It's not just like a straight referral to the executive, right? It's still us who are suggesting what goes on there. So we're going to try that. Thank you. Just thank you. I don't even know what for. Let's try, okay? Let's try. Nope.
Point of order, Mike.
Moderator, Bill Thomas, Hamilton Conference. So I just want to be clear, Alan, that if we choose number 1, there will be no discussion before going to the vote. So we're not going from, we're not choosing between whether we're proposal or motion. We're actually saying that if we choose number 1, we are prepared to go directly to the vote without any conversation.
Well, without any further conversation.
Right,
You've
correct.
had extensive conversation.
I agree.
Yes,
I agree.
That's
but
right.
so without any, so number 1 is, moderator, you were going to go. Now we're going to the vote.
Bingo.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if you want to talk, pick number 2, right? Like, if you want to talk. But pick number 2, don't pick number 1. She's going to call.
All right, and the other thing that you'll notice is different if people are up at the microphones and speaking to something up in the corner, there'll be a little timer. Now, I am trying to studiously avoid saying to people, you only have this long to talk, and then we're going to cut off your mic, and I don't want to do that. But I also want to make the space for all voices that need to be heard. And for that to happen, when anybody gets up to the microphone, you need to keep your comments concise and to the point as much as possible. And so it's hard. I'm somebody who, once I stand at a microphone, I lose all sense of time. I don't know if I've been there for 50 seconds or 5 minutes. And so the little clock will help. It'll start at 1.5 minutes like that, and it will just count down to 0, and then it will start counting up after that. And so if it gets too far counting up after it's gone to 0, I might encourage you to find your point as quickly as possible, and then sit back down. Point of order, Mike?
Selena Mullen, Montreal, Ottawa Conference. This is much less intimidating with a hat, so thank you for that. Just a very quick clarifying question from this side of the room. What's the margin on number 2s? So is it if, I didn't quite catch it and we were a bit confused, so how many of us have to pick number 2?
10% or more.
Okay.
So if 90% or more choose number 1, then we will go to the vote immediately. If less than 90% choose option 1, then we won't. Then we won't go immediately to vote. Okay, I'm going to ask the facilitation team. It's one of those things, as we live into it, it will become clear. So we are beginning with the facilitation team presenting on administration of sacraments. What? Ministry personnel. Do-over. Ministry personnel. Sorry.
Bonjour. Pour le thème, le personnel ministériel, les commentaires généraux sont ce que nous avons entendu. Les groupes ont nommé des questions fondamentales concernant la structure actuelle de l'Église. Comment menons-nous notre mission et exerçons-nous notre leadership dans le cadre de la culture actuelle de l'Église? Quelle valeur accordons-nous à la formation du personnel ministériel, comment l'Église peut-elle rester en phase avec les contextes en mutation, par exemple le faible taux de fréquentation et les transformations touchant les parcs immobiliers? Nous avons à cœur de tisser des liens et de vivre selon le principe de l'équité, tout en honorant les caractéristiques qui nous définissent. Toutefois, les circonstances actuelles que l'Église vit, notamment le faible taux de fréquentation, le manque de personnel ministériel, les taux de participation fluctuants et le fait de devoir fonctionner en grande partie avec un personnel ministériel à temps partiel ou retraité peuvent entraîner des conditions de fonctionnement difficiles et des difficultés quant au recrutement. Certains craignent qu'avec la disparition des consistoires, les individus devront eux-mêmes créer leur propre système de soutien et de soins. So, Proposal 4, BC, les droits d'auteur, ce que nous avons entendu. De nombreux groupes appuyaient totalement la proposition. Certains groupes ont appuyé la proposition de façon si complète et unanime qu'ils n'ont pas mené de discussion. Question soulevée. Si nous effectuons ce changement, à quelle étape les droits d'auteur doivent-ils être accordés aux paroisses plutôt qu'au personnel ministériel? Et quand est-il lorsque le pasteur ou la pasteur collabore? Plusieurs groupes ont suggéré que ces dossiers soient étudiés par une instance juridique. Le Conseil général de l'Église unie a informé le groupe d'animation du fait que l'Église a le droit, sur le plan juridique, d'effectuer ce changement si l'Assemblée donne son approbation. Certains groupes ont soulevé le fait qu'ils n'ont pris connaissance de cet enjeu que lorsque cette proposition a été mise sur la table et qu'ils n'en comprennent pas tous les tenants et aboutissants. Certains groupes ont trouvé l'idée intéressante et ont suggéré qu'elle pourrait s'appliquer aussi à d'autres types de personnel ministériel. Par exemple, le personnel ministériel responsable de la musique. En amendement, que le 43e Conseil général confie à la secrétaire générale le mandat d'inclure un texte officiel accordant les droits d'auteur au personnel ministériel selon un protocole d'appel et de nomination et de créer une ressource pour les communautés des fois qui soutiennent la cession des droits d'auteur et d'autres membres du personnel rémunéré, le cas échéant.
Merci. All right, friends, you have heard or read the report and suggestions from the facilitation team. So get those clickers ready. Now this time you have to choose between 1, 2, or 3. Fortunately, you're pros at this because we did a whole lot of multiple voting yesterday. So if you feel that the facilitation group has captured the spirit of your discussions and you're ready to go to a vote, you're going to click 1. If you feel that they've captured the spirit of the discussions, but the current wording of what's currently a proposal, before we vote on that, before we move that, needs some work, you're going to click 2. If you believe that the facilitation group has not captured the spirit of the discussions, then click 3. Please click now. All right, 96% of you are ready to go directly to the vote, so I would entertain a mover and seconder. I need you at a microphone to move and second. Microphone 1.
Brian Me, Saskatchewan Conference. I'll make the motion.
And microphone 2.
Graham Bramler, British Columbia Conference.
All right, friends, you've called the question, essentially, so get your clickers out. And please vote now. All right, and that is approved by overwhelming majority. Facilitation team will now continue their report.
Merci, Madame le modérateur. OK. MNO4, formation obligatoire pour tout le personnel ministériel de l'Église unie du Canada. Ce que nous avons entendu. Dans l'ensemble, la plupart des groupes soutenaient cette proposition, mais certains avaient des sentiments mitigés. Un volet théologique devrait être inclus et obligatoire pour tout le personnel. Il faudrait aussi inclure une formation sur l'homophonie et la transphobie. L'établissement de normes pourrait être utile. Nous le faisons pour autres enjeux, comme les limites géographiques et la justice sociale. La formation obligatoire ne mène pas toujours à l'acquisition de connaissances et peut être perçue comme une façade. Elle peut aussi mettre les communautés LGBTQ2, I can't say that in French, en devenir dans une situation de vulnérabilité. Elle peut ajouter au fardeau du personnel ministériel responsable rémunéré. Certains ont l'impression d'une surcharge imposée. Il y a des coûts et les implications quant à la mise en œuvre ne sont pas claires. La formation doit être traduite en français en tenant compte des règles de cette langue en matière de genre. Le bureau de la vocation doit réviser tout le contenu de la formation obligatoire. Notre amendement. Que le 43e Conseil général approuve la proposition et confie à la secrétaire générale le mandat de mettre en œuvre les recommandations énoncées dans la dite proposition.
All right, thank you. Merci. So you've heard or read the report from the facilitation team. The suggested way forward is that the 43rd General Council affirm proposal MNO4, mandatory training for all United Church of Canada ministry personnel, and directs it to the General Secretary for implementation. Clickers out, and you're going to click 1, 2, or 3. Please click now. And you are 90% in favor of going directly to the vote, and so that's what we will do. I see point of order, Mike.
Murray Spear, Alberta Northwest. Moderator, I wonder if we could have the title of the proposal at the top of the 1, 2, 3 slides so that we can remember. Or is it, if it's the same slide every time? It's a
single slide that gets used for each one.
Okay. In that case, can I request that it be very clear which proposal we're talking about when that slide comes up?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are moving to the vote, and the proposal is MN04, and the motion, once it's moved and seconded, so if you're thinking of moving or seconding, make your way to a microphone, and this is what you would be moving or seconding: that the 43rd General Council affirm the proposal MN04, mandatory training for all United Church of Canada ministry personnel, and directs it to the General Secretary for implementation. See a mover and a seconder. Microphone 1.
Heather, excuse me, Heather McClure, Montreal and Ottawa Conference, I so move.
And microphone 2.
Meade Baldwin, Montreal Conference, I second.
Thank you. Get your clickers ready, folks. We are voting on this motion. If you're in favor, you'll click 1. Opposed, click 2. Please vote now. And that motion passes, 87%. Facilitation team. Oh, point of order, Mike.
Moderator, Blair Patterson, Montreal Ottawa Conference. Just want to be clear about the criteria for how we vote. Is it those in favor of moving forward is 90%, or is it 10% for those who would like to move it? Because
90%.
Okay, because...
Yes, sorry. I just figured if 90% voted for 1, then 10% didn't vote for 1. But that's not right. You're right. So if 90% of the people who vote for 1, we move forward. Thank you. Sorry, Marion.
The next proposal is the eliminating appointments for designated lay ministers.
Expenses for ministry.
Oh, we got a different one up. Oh dear, okay. Is this one I'm doing then, Carmen? I'll go ahead with it anyway. Yeah, we don't have it printed. We don't have it here, okay. Most groups supported the proposal. The need is clearly recognized. There were concerns about where the source of funding would come from. Limited resources should let the regions determine how to respond rather than direct the regions to implement. Support for having funding run through the denominational council so that the national church could respond to different needs in different regions can support broader movement over geographical areas. It was suggested we refer the proposal for further study, taking into account the concern over funding and some of the creative solutions noted by the discussion group. The suggested way forward is that the 43rd General Council refer MNW05, moving expenses for ministry personnel, to the General Secretary.
All right, thank you very much. So you've heard from the facilitation team. The suggestion from the facilitation team is that this be referred to the General Secretary, but with all of your comments and all of the wisdom coming out of your discussion groups to inform what the General Secretary and the whole body that she consults and works with will inform their movement forward. So get those clickers ready. We're not discussing anything just now.
I have a question.
All right.
Max Martin, Maritime Conference. So would this be referring it to the General Secretary for study or to take action on the proposal?
We left it so that we're referring it to the General Secretary so that she can decide based on what it looks like as we move into the three-court structure, with, depending on her and the executive minister's review of all the discussions and comments, whether or not it should be a regional initiative or if it should be a national initiative, and that they would be in charge of assessing whether or not the church actually has the resources to do it. So there's a lot more discernment that needs to happen, and that we're referring all of that discernment and decision-making to the General Secretary and her staff.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. So friends, clickers out. We are deciding what we're going to do with MNW05, moving expenses for ministry personnel. Please choose option 1, 2, or 3. Click now. And 90% of you are in favor of going directly to a vote. So I would entertain a mover and seconder. Microphone 2.
Millions peace amendment in conference.
We have a mover. Do I have a seconder? Microphone 3.
Patterson, Montreal, Ottawa Conference.
It's Blair Patterson. All right, get your clickers ready. We're voting that the 43rd General Council refer MNW05, moving expenses for ministry personnel, to the General Secretary. If you're in favor, click 1. If you are opposed, click 2. Please vote now. And that passes with a wide majority. Friends, as I invite the facilitation team up to present the next one, I would like you to know that our facilitation team was up until almost 3 o'clock in the morning working on this for us. So we're on MNW06, appointments of congregational designated ministers.
Oh, jeez.
I know, that's why it's up there for you.
Okay, so if my speech is slurred, you know why. What we heard, it was clearly articulated that we need a larger discussion regarding choices in keeping vulnerable congregations alive. The proposal highlighted there is a pressing need in rural congregations that are not left with any viable leadership options in their communities of faith under our current structure. Discussion groups expressed a lot of mixed feelings, and it's evident there's a lot that needs clarification. There was no consensus to affirm the proposal, but an affirmation that the problem is a significant challenge. There were concerns over availability and consistency of accountability, supervision, and discipline. There was confusion over the role and accountability of congregational designated ministers as already defined in the manual. Some groups questioned whether other options within our current structure could respond to the problem. The suggested way forward, that the 43rd General Council refer proposal MNW06 appointment of congregational designated ministers to the executive of the denominational council.
Right, thank you very much. So you've heard the facilitation group's report and their suggested way forward, that all of the notes from all of your discussions be referred, and the proposal, MNW06, be referred to the executive of the denominational council. Please indicate 1, 2, or 3 with your clickers on how you want to proceed. Click now, please. All right, so 86% of you have indicated you want to go to a vote, which means that this will actually, we will not vote on this right now. We're going to move it to the side and come back to it later and continue this process with the rest of the proposals that are being presented, and we will come back to MNW06.
MNW7. L'équité salariale pour les agents et les agentes pastoraux laïques. Ce que nous avons entendu. Les réactions des groupes concernant cette proposition étaient mitigées. La valeur du travail des agentes et des agents pastoraux laïques était reconnue. Certains étaient d'avis qu'en raison de la formation requise pour devenir pasteur, le personnel ministériel ordonné doit toucher un salaire supérieur. D'autres étaient d'avis qu'un poste qui comporte les mêmes tâches et responsabilités doit offrir le même salaire selon le principe à travail égal, salaire égal. Certains groupes ont soulevé le fait qu'il est possible d'accorder aux pasteurs, agentes et agents laïcs désignés davantage que le minimum prévu dans la grille salariale. Selon plusieurs groupes, il y a très peu d'écart entre les deux catégories pour ce qui est du salaire minimum. It's hard speaking in French when I haven't done it often and I've only had very little sleep.
Thank you for the effort.
Une suggestion a été émise, l'inclusion dans la grille salariale d'une sous-grille qui permet aux communautés de foi de prendre en compte certains facteurs en plus du principe à travail égal, salaire égal. Par exemple, la scolarité. Selon plusieurs groupes, cet enjeu doit faire l'objet d'une étude plus approfondie. Certains groupes ont exprimé la préoccupation selon laquelle il s'agissait d'un travail qui touche le renvoi 6, renvoi qui a été rejeté en amendement. Que le 43e Conseil général ne prenne aucune action supplémentaire concernant la proposition.
Merci. Having heard or read the report from the facilitation team, and hearing that the suggested way forward that they are presenting is that the 43rd General Council take no further action on proposal MNW07, equal pay for designated lay ministers. I'm going to ask you to indicate your preference, 1, 2, or 3 with our next step. Please indicate now. 81% have indicated number 1, so this will also be placed to the side, and we will come back to it. And we'll move on right now with the facilitation group's report.
There was strong affirmation for the proposal. A number of groups suggested the church consider additional language as needed and appropriate. We should be translating where there is need or a critical mass. One comment flagged the possibility that this proposal could be perceived as racist. One group noted a concern about funding the implementation. Suggested way forward that the 43rd General Council affirm Proposal SK1, Sexual Misconduct Prevention and Response Policies and Procedures Accessibility.
Yeah. Sorry, I think there's a line in what I received that's not on the screen, is that and directs it to the General Secretary of the General Council for implementation. And that's to be part of it. Okay, so the suggested way forward that is being proposed is that the 43rd General Council affirms Proposal SK1, Sexual Misconduct Prevention and Response Policies and Procedures Accessibility, and directs it to the General Secretary of the General Council for implementation. So you're going to indicate 1, 2, or 3 what you want to do with this, how you want to proceed on this one. We'll get that wording up there. There we are. Thank you, tech team. All right, now they have to switch computers and everything to get our 1, 2, and 3 slide up there. There we go. So please indicate how you want to move forward now. It's 89% have voted or clicked, sorry, 1, and so this also moves to the side. This is all work we're going to come back to, folks, and we're going to continue. It's who voted.
But that didn't equal 100%. Yeah, but they weren't 90% that voted for it, so.
Oh, it didn't add, well, it can be off by 1% or it's off by 90, it's off by 5%.
It was 89, 4, and 2.
Yeah, it's because, depending on the numbers, because we're not 100 people, we're 300 and some people.
It means that not, I can put it to as like a percentage of the total possible, but it's not a percentage.
Well, it averages, because it's not a... Sorry, folks, we just had to get clear about the numbers. You might have noted, we trust the math of the computers over our brains. We're not 100 people, therefore percentages get averaged, right? So we're like 327 votes altogether, so what's 105? What percentage is 105 of 327? It might not always add up to, when you add it up, 100%, because this one might have got rounded down, but that one got rounded down. So 2 got rounded down, so it looks like we lost 2%, but actually we're still within a percentage.
That's not math.
Well, for now, we're putting it over.
You can take this.
Okay. Well, here's the discretion of the chair. Because we don't know which way that would have rounded up or down, and it didn't say 90%, get moved to the side and we'll come back to it. And you know what, folks, if 90% of you think we're ready to go, I think it's not going to take us very long to go on it. So let's not panic about that. Better to have conversations so that everybody feels like, yeah, we're together on this, than to stifle conversation and have people feeling like stuff got pushed through. So we carry on.
eliminating appointments for designated lay ministers. The group had mixed responses to this proposal, but the majority were not in favor. We heard the following concerns and questions. What is the theology of call versus appointment? Practice and policies are difficult. Simplification is needed. There could be the possibility for longer-term appointments without changing the language of appointment. Recognize that designated lay ministers might be eligible for open-ended appointments. Concerns about supervision and training. Designated lay ministers are not accountable to the Office of Vocation. To whom will they be accountable? Appointments for designated lay ministers are cumbersome and they can cause anxiety. The church needs to address the pain that there is on both sides. A few groups suggested more study on this issue. There were several groups that raised the concern this proposal is a work around the failed Remit 6, one order of ministry. Suggested way forward that the 43rd General Council take no further action on proposal SK3, eliminating appointments for designated lay ministers. No further action recommended.
Okay, friends, so you've heard the report of the facilitation team. You want to indicate, one, have they heard and captured the spirit of your discussions and you're ready to vote? If so, that would be one. Or two, you feel like they captured the spirit of the discussions but the current wording needs work. Or three, you feel like they did not hear the spirit of your discussions. So please indicate now, 1, 2, or 3. All right, that one received 78% in category 1, so it also moves to the side. So that takes us to the end of the theme for ministry personnel. My understanding is we're going through all the themes and then we come back to. All right, thank you, facilitation team. And I think we're moving on to right relations now.
So we're going to begin with the general comments that we heard. The groups expressed affirmation for this work and that the church is called to continue working on right relations. Groups said it's about reconciliation, diversity, and genuine reparation. One challenge is to really understand the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and think about how the church looks different moving forward. It is essential Indigenous people be involved going forward. We are all treaty people and want to participate in this work and want to be aware of settler privilege, regardless of how and where we settled on these lands. We honored the relationship is still being offered to us from the Indigenous community, and we are grateful for the grace that has been extended to non-Indigenous community. Moving on to ANW 06, BQ2, and TOR 1. What we heard, several groups dealt with proposals ANW 06, BQ 02, and TOR 01 as one, therefore so did the facilitation team. Groups affirmed the spirit of these proposals and the continuation of this important work. One group felt that we should take no action on these proposals, but that the regions should be encouraged to continue networking and consider the calls to the church. There was some confusion about what the Living into Right Relations network is, what its role is, what the cost is, and whether the network is effective and has had impact. There was concern about bringing something from the past into the new structure, but that was balanced with preserving what has existed that ensures this important work continues. Most groups expressed the view that adequate funding should be provided and that the work needs to continue in the new structure. There was concern about the capacity of staff. There was a strong sentiment that this settler work needs to happen nationally, regionally, and locally. The work should not be imposed on the Indigenous Church, but rather be done through a framework developed with the Indigenous Church. So the suggested way forward, that the 43rd General Council affirm proposals ANW06, BQ02, TOR01, and refer them to the General Secretary.
And if we can add at the end, refer them to the General Secretary for implementation. It's no, my notes are wrong. No, refer them to the General Secretary. What's up on the screens is, I'm going to scratch out my notes. You have for implementation as well? Okay,
No,
so let's hear the clarity on this.
Okay, so what we were informed by the business table is if we were directing the General Secretary to implement the recommendations as they were stated in the proposals, that we would direct implementation. But as suggested in the previous theme, if there was discernment and decision-making to be made by the General Secretary, we would simply, and her staff, that we would simply refer them to the General Secretary.
Okay,
so
thank you.
If we're directing her to implement, or we're just referring to her.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So the suggested way forward is that this council would affirm these 3 proposals and refer them to the General Secretary. 3. There's A, N, W, B, Q, and TOR. All right. So with your clickers, you're going to indicate one. And friends, I'm just going to remind us that when you're doing this 1, 2, and 3, you're not indicating whether you're for or against what's being proposed. This is not a vote on the proposed way forward. This is, do you feel like you've been sufficiently heard and the information is out there and that you're ready to vote? That's what 1 means. 2 means, no, the wording isn't right. We're not ready to vote on this wording. And 3 is, we haven't been heard. So please indicate 1, 2, or 3 now. And 91% have clicked 1, so I will entertain a mover and a seconder. Mike 1.
Oh. Morgan Bell, Bay of Quinte Conference.
And a seconder. Mike 3.
Wendy Brown, London Conference.
All right. Then please get your clickers ready. The motion before us is that the 43rd General Council affirm proposals ANW06, BQ02, and TOR01 and direct them to the General Secretary. If you're in favor, click 1. Opposed, click 2. Please vote now. And that is approved with a 94% majority. Facilitation team, back over to you.
Proposition Montréal et Ottawa 3. Favoriser les relations justes en utilisant les langues autochtones pour nommer notre Église. Ce que nous avons entendu. La plupart des groupes ont approuvé l'esprit de reconnaissance des langues autochtones locales. Ils ont suggéré qu'il pourrait s'agir d'une initiative régionale ou locale. Les groupes ont également posé des questions sur les aspects pratiques, notamment quelle langue autochtone utiliserions-nous, puisqu'il en existe plusieurs. Est-ce que certaines langues auraient préséance sur d'autres? Bien qu'une grande partie de la discussion en groupe ait porté sur les questions de mise en œuvre, il y a un consensus à la fin pour l'étude proposée. Notre amendement que le 43e Conseil général approuve la proposition Montréal et Ottawa 3, favoriser les relations justes en utilisant les langues autochtones pour nommer notre Église et enjoint la secrétaire générale de mettre en œuvre ces recommandations.
Thank you. Right. So you have, I think, what I have, which is not quite what's on the screen. And so the suggested way forward is that the 43rd General Council affirm proposal MNO3, enhancing right relations through the use of Indigenous languages to name our church, and direct it to the General Secretary for implementation. So this one we are directing to the General Secretary for implementation. Point of order, Mike.
David Layden-Brown from Toronto Conference. With the previous proposal, we were advised not to direct for implementation, but simply to direct. And I was persuaded by the logic of that. Why are we not consistent in that language across all proposals?
That's a great question. The difference is, in the previous proposal, there was discernment and direction that the General Secretary and her staff would have to take in order to implement the proposal, and so we were simply referring it for their discretion about what to do. In this proposal, the proposal is for a study about how to do it, and so we are directing the General Secretary to implement the proposal, which is to do the study.
Thank you. All right, so clickers out. And please indicate 1, 2, or 3 for how you want to move forward from here now. %91 of you would like to vote now, and so that is what we are going to do. So I need a mover and a seconder. I see microphone 3.
Kyle Grant, Maritime Conference.
And I need a seconder.
Hugh Johnson, Alberta Northwest.
Thank you. So the motion before us is that the 43rd General Council affirm proposal MNO3, enhancing right relations through the use of Indigenous languages to name our church, and direct it to the General Secretary for implementation. If you are in favor, you will click 1. If you are opposed, you will click 2. Please vote now. And that passes with 89%. Now we are moving 89 and 6. I saw it. Tech team? Point of order.
Mark Marshall, London Conference. When we agreed to the 90%, I think maybe we were under the assumption that was 90% of those voting. And it looks, because it's always coming up to a 95% total, and I know there could be rounding and everything, but it looks like maybe those that are not voting are being counted as no's.
Alan, can you clarify what's happening with our percentages?
I cannot clarify exactly, but I can clarify that I will look at the computer. We have one of those, so we can take the 10 minutes now, or I can do that at the break and clarify what's going on as best I can and provide you with a suggested way forward based on what we've done and how we keep going. So that's the plan. if we can just keep going till then with what we're doing, and we'll sort it after.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, we're on to SK6, Ministerial Training in Response to Truth and Reconciliation Commission Call to Action 60, what we heard. All groups supported this proposal. Some wanted stronger, even stronger language, changing might encourage to encourage or will encourage. Some groups felt that this educational format or formation is essential, not just for students, but for all ministry personnel through continuing education. There was acknowledgement that many theological schools are already working on this. There was some support for making courses on Indigenous issues mandatory. Indigenous groups should have the right to self-determine their engagement with theological training schools, and that Indigenous groups should be consulted in the development of curriculum. The suggested way forward, that the 43rd General Council direct the General Secretary to encourage the United Church of Canada testamer granting theological colleges and other educational bodies to develop concerted, timely, and coordinated efforts to respond to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission Call to Action number 60 in consultation with the caretakers of the Indigenous Circle, the Church's National Indigenous Organization, and other appropriate bodies.
All right, thank you very much. Clicker's out. And you're going to indicate 1, 2, or 3. Please click now. Okay. 96% of you have clicked 1. So I'm entertaining now a mover and seconder, mic 3.
Sketch. Pam Thomas, Saskatchewan Conference. I so move. Seconded by Alan Gerrans of Saskatchewan Conference.
Alan Gerrans? They scooped to
Yes.
mic 1. All right. Great then. It is moved and seconded that the 43rd General Council direct the General Secretary to encourage the United Church of Canada testamer granting theological colleges and other educational bodies to develop concerted, timely, and coordinated efforts to respond to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission Call to Action number 60 in consultation with the caretakers of the Indigenous Circle, the Church's National Indigenous Organization, and other appropriate bodies. If you are in favor of this, you will click 1. If you are opposed, you will click 2. Please vote now. And that passes with a 95% majority. All right, one more in this theme.
Do this one and then leadership because there's only one proposal.
No, we're going to go to the Partners Council and then we'll come back to leadership.
Toronto 2. Appel à l'action 60 de la Commission de vérité et réconciliation, exercice des couvertures. Ce que nous avons entendu. Tous les groupes ont appuyé cette proposition. Cette formation constitue une première étape et nous devons trouver d'autres utiles en consultation avec les constituants autochtones de l'Église. Une formation plus poussée s'avère nécessaire. Certaines personnes s'inquiétaient de l'incidence des coûts pour les paroisses en région rurale puisque ces cours sont souvent offerts en milieu urbain. Des personnes ont laissé entendre qu'il fallait offrir de la formation dans les communautés rurales. Une suggestion est a été faite pour que ce soit une responsabilité régionale ou que cela relève du bureau de la vocation, à l'instar des autres questions d'ordre pratique sur la mise en œuvre. Notre amendement. Que le 43e Conseil général approuve la proposition Toronto 2, appelle à l'action 60 de la Commission de vérité et réconciliation, exercice des couvertures, et enjoigne le secrétaire général de mettre en œuvre ces recommandations, y compris celles du Synode de Toronto.
All right, thank you. So you've heard from the facilitation group. Their suggested way forward is that the 43rd General Council affirm proposal TOR 2, TRC call 60, blanket exercise, there's a slash in there, including the recommendations from the Toronto Conference, and refer it to the General Secretary for implementation. Sorry, I said refer. That's on me. It should say direct it to the General Secretary. Thank you. You're going to indicate 1, 2, or 3 for how you want to proceed now. Please click now. %92 have indicated you're ready to vote. So I'm looking for a mover and seconder. Microphone 3.
Lorna standing ready, from a commissioner from the All Native Circle Conference, and I got here fast.
Microphone 3.
Susan Eagle, Toronto Conference. I'm happy to second it.
All right, so it's moved and seconded. Please get your clickers ready and vote now. And that is approved with 91% majority. All right, friends, we've come to the end of this theme for the time being, and we are now going to hear from our partners in our partner council. So we're giving our facilitation group a bit of a break for a moment and invite our partners up from the partner council. Did we actually do all of those? Oh, we have nothing to come back to there. That's brilliant. That's what I was told. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was partner council. It's all of our partners. Ah, my mistake. It's all of our partners who are here with us. What a blessing.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This message will be shared and read by all the partners and interfaith and global partners who are here from all the different microphones. We are your partners, ecumenical, interfaith, and global. And we begin in gratitude for your welcome, for your solidarity, and for your love. We begin with the words of one of the members of the United Church Partner Council, Bishop Reuel Marigsa of the Philippines. Bishop Marigsa reminds you, United Church of Canada, that you live in partnership. Not because it is something that you have to do, but because these partnerships are in your DNA, in your birthright, so to speak. You live them out concretely because without them, there is no United Church of Canada. When we witness this living out of your faith, and you come alongside with us, accompanying us in the living out of our faith in our own particular context, walking beside us in our struggles. We are strengthened, we are emboldened, and we are inspired.
And to this, at this General Council 43, we might dare to add, when you walk beside us, you are strengthened, you are emboldened, you are inspired. That is because we need one another to learn, to grow, to be the bold expression of the living Christ that our common faith demands.
General Council 43. We want to say truly God is present in this place, and we have noticed it. We see God's restless, inclusive, discombobulating, justice-seeking spirit
in your decisions to move forward the self-determining Indigenous Church in respect and towards right relations. In your welcome extended to us and your culture of appreciation for one another.
And in your determination not only to speak about equity in your church, but to strive to embody equity in meaningful ways, ways that begin to shift power and resources toward radical inclusivity.
In your embrace of full communion with more and more communities of faith, and in so many other ways, truly God is present in this place.
And God is also present, so fully and meaningfully present in the in-betweens, in the places between you and other churches, and you and other faiths, and between you as a Canadian church and your global partners. God is present right in the midst of these relationships where we seek unity and justice for the whole inhabited earth. And we invite you to continue to notice.
At this General Council, we were moved by the poignant stories related to the 1988 decision and are learning that even 30 years later, you remain on a journey towards deeper and broader inclusion. Some of our communities are at a very different place in that journey, and yet we want to risk to keep talking, believing we have something to learn, but also something to offer. We are acutely aware of the gravity of these questions, life or death, for LGBTQTS+ people around the world, for the way they are intertwined with the colonization and mission, and for the ways in which they intersect with other systems of power, privilege, and oppression.
We know that you share our deep and sustained lament for the pain of our world.
where brutal racism wounds and harms, where war and militarization endangers and destroys, where violence against women and children threatens dignity and life.
Where organized crime chokes possibility, where youth face life-threatening despair, where ecological harm violates integrity, and where those who speak out, peace builders, human rights defenders, racial justice activists, indigenous leaders, women, and so many others all around the world risk their lives when they strive to change the world.
Yes, these are global issues about our own communities and about your own communities, your congregations, your families. These grim realities and many more exist. There is victimization and complicity, but also courage and resistance. How might we challenge each other that are intertwined intertwined with the colonization and mission, and for the ways in which they intersect with other systems of power, privilege, and oppression.
Friends, we dream of a future of mutuality, where we fully understand how we need each other. We need you as much as we believe that you need us. We dream of a future where we grow together, people to people, church to church, and church to people's movements.
Friends, our voice is so desperately needed, yours and ours together. Coming alongside struggling peoples and communities, our voice is needed to embolden the leadership of peoples most affected. Our voice is needed to resist, to propose, to lament, to insist on the peace, justice, and integrity of creation that is God's dream for all.
Together we learn and grow. Together we are stronger. May God, who is our hope, draw us more closely together in love and justice for the sake of the world. We are so grateful for you. Together with you, we risk faith and dare hope. Amen.
We are so blessed, so richly blessed by such faithful companions on this journey and our partners. Thank you. Alan, I need your help. I'm looking at my agenda and I have no idea where we are.
Break. Time for a break.
Oh, it's time for a break. It's cookies and coffee time. Woo-hoo! All right, see you all back here in half an hour. Let's make it 11 o'clock sharp.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Whoo-wee, okay.